Hey everybody, I'm Jasco, and today we're going to do a really simple song, Free Fallin' by Tom Petty, and it's going to give us the chance to talk about several different aspects of guitar playing that if you're just starting off, you might not be aware of. So let's dive into this. Free Falling is a simple, repetitive pattern for the whole song. It's going to sound like this. You can play that through the whole song, sing the whole song to that with no changes, and there you go, easy enough, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to play a D chord, which we've already done. Then we're going to play a D suspended, or D suspended fourth. What I'm doing is I'm adding my pinky to the 3rd fret of the high E string. It's almost the same chord, but the high note changes just a little bit. So I strum a D, then a D suspended, then a D suspended again, back to regular D, and then an A. And that's it. Now we've learned to play an A with our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers at the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B strings, like that. Another way you can play an A is with your 1st finger barring those 3 strings, D, G, and B. But you have to bend it back or angle it back enough so that it doesn't hit that high E. You don't want that muted out like that. Now if you did mute it out, it's still an A chord, but in this particular song, that's a really important note. That's kind of like the melody note of the guitar. So you've got to make sure that you bend that finger back far enough. It might take some practice, but that's easier to hit with 1 finger than with 3 fingers coming from the D chord. There's another way that you can play the A also, and this is kind of how flamenco players finger it. That's where I'm kind of barring and getting 2 strings with my index finger, the D and G, and then my middle finger gets the B string. So that would be another option that you could try to finger that A chord. So one important thing to take from this is that with any chord there's multiple ways to finger it, and some might be easier or more difficult depending on the song. So don't just think of a chord as one particular fingering. Think of it as it's that shape, but there's many different fingerings or several different fingerings that you could use depending on what you're doing with that chord in any given particular song. Here are some close-ups of the finger motions for the chord changes for Free Fallin' by Tom Petty. I'm playing that A, which is 1 finger. I could play it with 3 fingers. I could also use the flamenco fingering of an A chord. There's 1 finger on the D and G string, and then middle finger on the B string. So say you practice this, get it down to where you can play it in time with the song. Then you go put on the Tom Petty song and try to play along with the actual tune, and you say, well, it kind of sounds like the song, but there's something wrong when I play along with it. Well, they're playing in a different key than I showed you. And the way that you will change keys for this song is using a capo. So what a capo does is it acts as a bar across whatever fret you put it at, and effectively kind of tunes your guitar higher in a way. So I could put it at the first fret. Oops, I've got to adjust it so it fits on this particular neck. Now I can play the same chord shapes I was playing, a D chord shape, a D suspended chord shape, back to D, then an A. Now I've got the same song in a higher key. 1 half step higher, 1 fret higher. Let's put it at the 2nd fret. So now I'm a whole step higher, or 2 frets higher. I can do it at the 3rd fret. And the 3rd fret is the one that you want to do if you want to play in the actual key of the song, Tom Petty Free Falling. But if you're not playing along with the record, you might want to put the capo up or down to whatever fits your voice the best if you're singing it. Or whoever's singing the song, whatever fits their voice the best. If your voice is higher than Tom Petty's, maybe you want to put it up at the 5th fret. If your voice is lower, maybe you want to put it at 2nd fret, 1st fret, or even open. So capo is an easy way to shift keys with open chords that you already know to make any song match your voice just by moving the capo higher or lower. Here's the same thing with the capo at the 3rd fret. So I'm going to keep the capo on the 3rd fret, and we're going to work on some strumming patterns with this song. So I could do it just like I showed you at the top, where I do 1 strum on each different chord sound. And you might want to practice this with a click just to practice good timing. I'll just tap on the guitar right now so it kind of imitates a click. So with that tempo, I could play all 8th notes. I could play 16th notes. I'm still changing the chords at the same time, I'm just moving my hand faster. If I was really playing this song in a performance, what I would do is probably feel the 16th notes, but I wouldn't play them all. So I'm just going to put a few in here and there, a few 8th notes and a few 16th notes. And if you're just starting off, that can be pretty hard to do. So what you might do is try just the normal rhythm, 1 strum per chord, then try all 8th notes, then try all 16th notes, and then maybe go back to the normal rhythm and pick out one little spot where you're going to put in an extra 8th note or a couple extra 16th notes. maybe on the last chord. So I put in a few extra eighth notes on that last chord. I could do the same thing with 16th notes. So just start adding a few here and there and see what you come up with. So while we're talking about capos, let's talk about what chords we're actually playing. Now you can move the capo up and down and just fit it to your voice or fit it to the singer's voice and not really know what chords and not care about what chords, and that's perfectly fine. But if you want to know what chords you're playing, then you're going to have to figure out where the root note of the chord is and what that note is after you put the capo on. So if I take the capo off and I play a D chord, my root is the open D string, which is the note D, which is why it's called the D string. If I put the capo on the 3rd fret, right there, now my root note of that D shape is going to be 3rd fret on the D string, which is an F. So if I put the capo on right there and play that D shape, that's actually an F chord. That sounds confusing, and like anything, when you're first learning something, it is. But the more you do it, the more you'll get used to it. You know, so a game that you could play is just put the capo on anywhere, maybe 7th fret, play that D shape, and then figure out what note that is. 7th fret on the D string is the note A, so that D shape right there is now an A chord. Let's go back to the 3rd fret, since that's where our song is being played at. When I play that A shape right there, with the capo on the 3rd fret, my root note is now 3rd fret of the A string, A, B, C, so that shape is a C chord. So hopefully that makes sense for you. If it doesn't, leave some questions in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. But again, you don't really need to know the names of the chords you're playing if you're just having fun and playing some songs and capoing them up. But if you're trying to learn about the guitar in a more serious way, you definitely want to know all the chords you're playing as you play chords with capo at different frets. It also makes it easier to communicate if you're playing with a non-guitar instrument. You know, maybe you're playing along with a piano or something and you say, well, I'm playing a D, and they go to play a D and it doesn't sound like that because you're actually playing an F with the capo right there. And if you can tell them it's an F, then you know the other instrument will know what note to play or what chord to play. So have fun with this song. Go buy a capo if you haven't, and we'll see you next lesson. Thanks. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you know when more videos come out, and share this with any friends that you know that might be learning to play guitar. Thanks.